Hey, Jessica.
Hi.
Wow. You run a classical literature book club,
I do.
and you guys just finished a book recently, Little Women. I have not read that, so I'm excited about this book review. I know it's like I've heard it so many times. It's a classic. It's on my list. It's just there, I just have so many books on my list. So convince me. Should I read this soon? Should I bump it up the list?
So, okay, I know you don't mind crying when it comes to books. You know how I feel about crying when it comes to books.
I do.
You know, I am very opposed to crying when I read a book. I don't like it. I don't like those feelings. But and no one warned me ahead of time that Little Women was going to make and I'm literally not joking right now. It literally made me ugly sob at the dining room
Oh.
table through an entire chapter. And those of you that have read Little Women, you know the exact chapter I am referring to. And I'm trying not to tear up right now because the author did an amazing job of taking my heart and ripping it out of my chest and crushing it.
Oh.
In the best possible way. Honestly, it's not one of those where I cried because I was upset. I mean, I was sad. It was more that I cried because it was so beautifully written, and I don't wanna spoil it for you, and I don't wanna spoil it for anybody. I am overly sensitive, so you may not ugly sob through an entire chapter like I did. It may make you tear up, it but it was so emotionally beautiful in how she handled one of the toughest situations I think a person could go through. And I'm trying not to cry right now because, like, just thinking about that chapter and thinking about what happened is just making me well up. So I apologize to everybody if you're a sensitive crier like me. Had I known I was going to ugly sob, I probably would not have picked up the book. But I will say that is hands down probably one of the best books I think I have ever read in my entire life. I'm probably going to need a decade before I reread it. because and I mean there were multiple times that I teared up and cried a little bit, but there's one particular chapter that really just it was really rough for me to read. But the book overall, if you are a woman, now okay, so I have two different views on this. If you are a woman, this is a must-read book. And it doesn't matter what your age is because or what stage of life you are in because I think you're going to get something out of it. If you are a young woman reading this book, every single one of the characters, Little Women is about four sisters. And every single sister has a vastly different personality that you will identify with at least to a portion. So, one of the characters suffers from a quick temper. And as a redhead, I 100% identified with her as a character. One of the other characters, though, she suffers a little more from vanity. Now, all of us females suffer to a degree with vanity. Some have it more than others. I don't struggle with it all that much. Maybe once in a while I have, my moments, but it's not something that's a big struggle as compared to my quick temper. But I still identified with her as a character because I understood where she was coming from. I understood why she felt the way she felt and why she did what she did. So if you are a young woman and you read this, you watch how these girls go from being girls to being women and the character development that happens with every single sister is absolutely beautiful because the author doesn't make them perfect. Even as adults, they are not perfect. They just come to realize I suffer from something that I struggle with, but I'm going to give it to God and let God make something beautiful of it and let Him change me. And that's the other part of this is that the book is very much so showing you how to put your trust in God. And the author does bring God into it a little bit, but it's the undertones that really so much
Mm.
speak of the gospel and why we need the Lord and why we need Him in our hearts to change us and make us better people. I would also recommend, regardless of who you are reading the book, read Pilgrim's Progress first because she heavily relies on the themes of Pilgrim's Progress for each of the girls. And so when the girls say, "Oh, I'm going through this moment," and they identify with one of the characters from Pilgrim's Progress, if you already have that book in the back of your mind, when you read this, it's so much more powerful. So it's all the Lord that we read Pilgrim's Progress right before we
Right.
read Little Women. I had no idea because I knew nothing about the book. So so if you are a young woman reading this, I highly recommend it. There's so many good moral values in this, even if you're not a Christian. There are some good moral values in this book that every woman needs to know and needs to read and needs to come to terms with. And it discusses everything from being a young woman to being a mom, a new mom. I think one of my favorite chapters, and this goes to why if you're an older woman, why you should read it. One of the chapters talks about one of the daughters getting married. She starts off life on hard mode by having twins. This book is set in the 1860s, guys. 1860s. They didn't have monitors back then. Baby monitors, I mean. Anyway, so she had twins, started life on hard mode with her husband, right? And as a new mom, I was a new mom many moons ago. And the concept of don't wake the baby, don't mess with my baby. I have this perfect little atmosphere going. I don't want you to mess it up. And how we can come across that way to our husbands, and how our husbands can start feeling more and more isolated at home, and how they are a dad now, but mom won't let them be a dad. Mom won't let them be the dad that they need to be. And the whole chapter goes over about how she deals with, yes, my house is how I want it in my order, but my husband's not happy. And the other part I like is that the mom who is involved in her life notices these things but isn't saying anything. She's waiting until her daughter is ready to hear what she has to say. She doesn't come in because it's so my personality. Hey, you're doing something wrong. We need to fix it right now. No, she waits until her daughter's actually ready to hear, hey, it's not his fault. It's yours. I went through it too. And this is what I suffered, and it hurt my marriage because of it to a degree. And I don't want to see you go through that. Here's what you need to do. Let him be him. Let him make the noise. Let him be a dad. Let him be him. And it was just so powerful that I'm like, how many marriages would just be so much better if the wife would just let her husband be him instead of trying to control every aspect so as not to wake the babies. I understand sleep is important. Don't get me wrong. But it's to the nth degree that he has to walk on eggshells when he comes home. Nobody wants to walk into their own home on eggshells. Right. And so it's just one of those chapters that I wish like every woman, like if you don't read the whole book, just read that one chapter. If you are a wife and you're going to be a mom, or you are a mom and a wife, it's just a good reminder to let your husband be your husband. Let him be the man that God made him to be, and then support him in that way. It's so beautiful. And then as a mom, reading this and watching the daughters grow up, because I have a daughter, it really spoke to me about how I need to let my daughter be who she is and be mindful of my timing and when to talk to her about the faults that she has, because we all do. We all, like, again, I suffer from a quick temper, right? And so it's one of those, whatever faults my daughter is going to have that show up more into adulthood, because all kids when they're little, they have their issues, right? That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to carry over once they hit teenage years and then adulthood. um but it's finding the appropriate times of when to talk to them about it, right? And not shove it down their throat. Or like the mom, this isn't a spoiler, but the mom also suffers from a quick temper. And so when her daughter that suffers from it came and started talking to her about it because of an incident that happened, the mom's like, okay, well, let me tell you, I suffer from the same thing. And then her daughter's like, oh, is that why you bite your lip the way you do sometimes? And she's like, yeah, that is me holding it in. And so from that point on in the book, that daughter, every time you read one of the chapters that she is in, she recognizes when her mom hits that wall of like her temper's gonna, like her temper could flare, but she is holding herself back. She's having that self-control. And she now recognizes it in her mom because they had that conversation at the appropriate time, instead of her mom saying, see how I control my temper when, I'm in my moods, blah, 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 right? So it's a beautiful book, and I don't wanna spoil anything because if you read it, I want you to fall in love with every single character as much as I did, and just watching them grow and just identifying with them at all different levels and all different stages, and then identifying with the mom if you're a mom, or maybe helping you understand your mom better when you see, like, this mom is raising 4 daughters by herself because her husband's part of the Civil War, so she's worried about her husband because they didn't have cell phones. She doesn't know if he's alive. Like, I can't imagine being under that stress of not knowing if my husband's around, and I'm still raising my 4 daughters by myself, with that stress and that worry of, I love my husband and I want him home. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna cry again. Anyway, now if you're a guy, I think this would be a great book for a guy to read as an insight to women. I'm not saying that a guy is gonna get a ton out of the book. I definitely think the book was written for girls and for women, because it's from the viewpoint of women. But I really think it would help a guy to understand the various aspects that a woman goes through, her thought process, her emotions. We're very emotional creatures. This is a very heavy emotional book because we're emotional creatures. And if you want to kind of understand girls a little bit better, I think reading the book would be very good for you to kind of see some of the things that we suffer with, like the whole concept of vanity about how other girls look pretty and you want to look pretty. And it's not because you want to be the best of the best, but you like that attention. You want that attention. It's not, it's one of those, like, all girls kind of feel it at some point in their life. Like, I want to be pretty too. I wanna be just as pretty as they are, and so it still may not make sense to a guy why we are the way we are. God made us the way he did. But I think it would help a little bit in just gaining some insight into how women might think and feel in certain situations. So, overall, it's probably gonna be one of my favorite books. It is one of my favorite books. It's so emotional for me because of how attached I get to characters, like they're real people. And I think that's the thing is, like, the stuff that happened in this book actually did happen, right? If you go back to the 1860s, you can find instances of any one of the things in this book happening to someone. And so I know as I read certain chapters, that literally happened to someone. And like, for instance, the chapter that I sobbed through happened to the author. And so that's one of those, and I didn't know that until after I read the book and I read up on the author a little bit. And that makes me even more devastated. Like, she is writing that from her own personal experience. And it's just so heartbreaking and so beautiful. And I'm going to need another 10 years before I can read it again. And no, I'll still sob at the table. But this is definitely going to be required reading for my daughter. Hands down. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just because it's a great book, but because I think we can gain so much from it as women and as girls to help us draw us closer to the Lord by showing us how we can handle our faults by letting the Lord take over our lives. So, anyway, I hope that convinced you, and I hope you read it, like, really, really soon so we could talk about it, and then you could tell everybody if you
All
ugly
right.
cried through one of
I
the
will bump it
chapters.
up the list.
It's a fantastic
um,
book.
it's great to, be able to read a really good story that also has life application. It's like a double whammy, you get that like nonfiction part of it that you get from nonfiction, but then with the fiction and the
Yes.
storyline and all that. So thank
Yes.
you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for listening. I recommend it to everybody. Read it. Let us know in the comments if you read it, if you liked it, what you liked about it, all that good stuff. We'd love to hear it.